What up, what up? My name is Ronnie Ferreira, and I am the captain of Comet Me Bro, the first ever champions of MSS Reindeer Games. You're watching Let Freedom Ring with Dan Bollier, the #1 podcast in Southern New Hampshire. Enjoy.
His name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. Cause they love him in London and Paris and Tokyo, America, Scotland and Canada and Mexico. They say, I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
Welcome to episode 18 of Ringin' Free Thoughts with Dan and Scott. However, due to circumstances, we've been trying to get this show going since last Friday. You're not Scott McVicker. You're Mike Bollier. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great. I got the last minute nod to take over for Scott, and happy to be here. That's quite an intro. I wasn't ready for any of that. I thought we just jumped right into it. I liked it. It's got me amped, and I'm ready to go.
Well, you got to have a little Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. You believe in Joe Hendry.
Sure.
It's quite the intro. But so a lot of this stuff was for Friday's show. That's almost a week ago. So I got to talk about this before we get into anything. Matthew Judon traded to the Atlanta Falcons. I know there was some disagreements on the sidelines, things like that. But did you see this coming?
He hasn't been practicing, so part of me did see it coming. Yeah, my concern with him was when Belichick left. I think a big reason he came to play for New England was because of Belichick, and when he was on his way out, he's now, being coached by someone he has a skill set that kind of matches a little bit. So I thought maybe, and then looking at sort of some of the market and what they're getting, I mean, he is the best, right? I mean, he's among the best. So I figured he'd ask for money. But I also figured they'd pay him. So,
yeah, I mean, so he had one more year left on that contract, and now, let me ask you right now.
Sure.
We're in the preseason. We won 4 games last year. What do you think? How many wins do you think the Patriots are getting this year?
That's tough, right? Because we got a whole new QB4. Doesn't seem like even. What's his face is coming back there. So I can't even think of his name right now. So Zappy. I don't think even Zappy's coming back. I think he'll
cut Zappy.
I think he'll get cut. So you still really haven't improved the receiving core. So you're putting either a young QB or a journeyman and Jacoby Brissett at the helm, which is tough. You get Gonzalez back at corner, that helps you, but you don't get the pressure on defense that you would have got from Judon. And that's the problem, right? The problem is that our offense stunk, right? But our defense kept us in the game. So if you let guys like Judon walk or anyone else who's at that level, you're taking a big hit. So if I was to guess, I want to be positive here. I think they'll improve. 7-10.
Oh, wow. That's generous. I'm thinking, you got to admit, the offense was so bad last year because the defense did keep them in games, and that's a big piece. But Judon was out most of that season anyways. I think he was hurt after the Cowboys. We lost him and Gonzalez in one fell swoop. So I don't even think it's 7 wins. I think it's 5. I think it's a little better than last year, but not much. I think it's going to be some time.
I've been trying to look at their schedule. Let's see. If I was to go through it, right, I'd say, let's get out of the preseason here. I mean, it's tough, but you think, okay, we can maybe beat the Jets, right? Can beat the Seahawks. I think that's doable. 49ers, that's tough. Dolphins are going to be tough. Texans are going to wreck us. Jaguars, we can beat. Titans, we can beat. Bears are going to be really good this year, I think. Colts, we can beat. So it's hard, right? But it's the best part about the sport is any given Sunday, right? So I think you just have to have a good game with the right people, and you can make it happen. So I'm sticking to 7-10. I'm trying to be positive. I think it's a first-year coach that people want to play hard for. So let's see. Sometimes that's enough.
I'm super excited for the season, but like it's so different. Expectations are so different from when we, all these years with Brady and everything like that. It's like now it's back to the bottom of the barrel here. Um, but I'm interested. This is the first time we're going to have a new coach since I was 16 years old. I'm going to be 40 in September. That's a lengthy run of a coach. So it's a brand new New England Patriots. Like
Yeah, that's right.
everything's new.
No Brady, no Belichick, the first time in a long time, right? So it's interesting. It's almost exciting, right? And I almost felt that way when Brady left. I didn't want Brady to leave, by the way. I thought they should have signed him or got him to stay, but it's a new team. And that's exciting in a lot of ways, right? Like, where can this team go? What is this team capable of? Who can we bring in? Who wants to play in New England now? Was Belichick a problem in terms of getting talent here? I don't know. I think there's still a lot of question marks to be answered.
It's gonna be interesting. And if you are watching right now and you want to comment, don't do it on the personal page. Jump over to the Let Freedom Ring page because it's ringing free thoughts, and we will comment.
We'll be just.
But I have to say, when Brady left, I was really excited just to see, like, we won 6 Super Bowls. It was awesome. I wish he could have stayed, but he wasn't. He wasn't going to stay. So there's entertainment value to see, like, where is this team going to turn? And we're not used to the losing that we saw last year. Like, we're not used to that. I mean, since I've been in high school, it's been a juggernaut, and I don't know. I'm super excited for the season, but expectations are not very high.
They can't be, right? I mean, there's just not. We're missing some proven people, right? I mean, this is not a proven team by any means. And when Brady left, I was excited that they brought in Cam Newton. I was like, maybe he's going to come back. And honestly, that team wasn't as bad as they were on paper. Yeah, he threw like maybe 5 touchdowns and a lot more picks, but some of those games came down to the last play. A Cam Newton interception, a Cam Newton fumble. That's not to pick on Cam. The whole team, if you score more points, you don't have that problem, right? But those could have gone either way, and they came down to the wire. And if they go the other way, it might be a playoff team. You know what I mean? So it's really hard to put it on any one person, anyone, play. But I think, the talent's been there. Like last year was historically bad. And I think the game in Germany was maybe the worst thing I've ever seen in my.
That's what we all kind of knew it was over. I mean, it stinks because that first year of Mac was fun. It was real fun. That was a fun season. Ended horribly, but they made the playoffs. But after that, it's been a train wreck. And
the playoffs too was an absolute disaster. That game against the Bills didn't stop them, not even one time. Scored every time they had the ball.
The Bills were on Madden easy mode in that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now we do a thing on the show. This is the 18th episode. Do you have any favorite players or players you can think of that wore 18?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can go with who's that? Darryl Strawberry. I
came up with Darryl Strawberry here.
Nice. I mean, Peyton Manning wore 18, I believe. Johnny Damon wore 18.
Oh, Johnny Damon, yeah.
So it's a good number. It's a good number. A lot of legends.
Johnny Damon, when he left for the Yankees and he shaved the beard, how are you feeling when that happened?
Not good. I felt like a stab in the back in a lot of ways. I mean, growing up and saying like, hey, if I'm not being paid enough at my job or whatever it might be, maybe I will go. I kind of have that visibility now where I can say maybe he did what was best for his family, and I can appreciate that, right? But at the time, that sucked. And Jacoby Ellsbury did it not long after that. So it sucked, but I did didn't apply to him anymore when he went to the Yankees, but there was the old adage of the looks like Jesus, acts like Judas, throws like Mary. And I think that's who he was.
Well, the beard and the hair was so synonymous with that 04 team. And to watch him, trim that was like, Mr. Glass wore 18. Mr. Glass. Yeah. Mr. Glass. Like the movie? But I gotta say, when Jacoby Ellsbury left, I understood. I was 29 at the time. I was like, do you know what he's referring to?
I'm looking it up. I'm trying to. I see.
AJ Green.
AJ Green. Oh, okay, yeah. So I googled Mr. Glass and I got a movie. So
that's the movie with Bruce Willis, Unbreakable.
Yeah.
survive.
Okay. Yeah, I mean AJ Green, talk about a phenom in his own right. When he was younger, he was a hell of a player with the Bengals. He was unstoppable.
They must have got hurt a lot, I take it.
I probably, yeah. Some of these guys too, they age out. You know what I mean? I think even if he got hurt, he came back and he bounced around and then he was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. But on the Johnny Damon thing, looking back on it, it just that was tough. But like Jacoby Ellsbury, that didn't bother me at all. It really didn't. I was like, I would have done the same thing. He wasn't worth the contract the Yankees were throwing at him, you know. But big news in the wrestling world. R.I.P. Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster, leader of the Dungeon of Doom, more known for, obviously his on-screen role, but his off-screen role as one of the bookers of WCW. Yeah, he didn't win anything.
He stunk.
Any thoughts on Kevin Sullivan? Any memories of him?
Well, I as a kid watching like the Dungeon of Doom, I really liked it. It felt like watching a Saturday morning cartoon. Especially when Hulk Hogan came over and they really made it cartoony. And
there's no Hulkamaniacs here.
I've never been to this place. There's no Hulkamaniacs here. Just horrid acting. But, it was a good way to introduce a lot of different characters, right? And in a time where they're very gimmicky. So I actually really liked it. Looked like the devil, finished on him.
He's wearing Hulk Hogan's colors. If you're not a fan of wrestling,
right.
What are you saying though, Mike?
So as a booker, great, right? I think now I know that as an adult. As a kid, I just really liked those segments. Looking back on them, they're not good, right? But if I was your audience in 1993, which I was, they were watchable. 94.
Now, those 94 and 95 were poor years for both companies. Right before they both got very hot. Obviously, the NWO started that, but the big thing with Kevin Sullivan is he is the reason the Radicals ended up in WWF because he took back over the book. Yeah. Benoit left, Guerrero left, Malenko left, Saturn. Saturn Malenko not as big of an impact, in my opinion, because Benoit and Guerrero went on to really. We're going to talk about Benoit in a second, but I think he's more known as just being a behind the scenes guy, more to like my age group than his on-screen character.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure true. And the thing about Kevin Sullivan too is like what sets him apart in that era too is he was 5'8", you know what I mean? But he was such a good, he was a decent sized guy too. But 5'8", sitting next to 6'8", probably closer to 6'3", Hulk Hogan. He looks so small, but he just works so strong. He has this great character. He fit that larger than life persona in a way that it's hard to do when you're that size. He come up later, he might have been a cruiserweight.
Yeah, well, what they did really though in the Dungeon of Doom era, they just brought in like Kamala, Earthquake, Bruce Beefcake, the Shark, all these guys, the Shark, Earthquake.
Yes, it's awful.
The Yeti, who never actually wrestled. I think he came in, he did a bear hug. What I have noticed though, when he did pass away, the tinfoil hats really came out.
People are nuts.
And there's a lot of people that still believe, and it's crazy because it was on every page. People believe that Kevin Sullivan was behind the murders of the Benoit family. He was married to Nancy Benoit before.
Yep.
It ended, and he went separate ways. Like, do you believe there's just,
as they say, yeah.
Do you think there's just people that just, to this day, they just can't wrap their brain around Chris Benoit doing this, such a horrific crime?
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. There's those people who maybe loved Chris Benoit and don't want it to be true, and then there's the people who just like the story better. It's always with wrestling, it's always a swerve, bro. You know what I mean? So everything has to be different than what it seems up in the the face value of it, and I think that's probably the issue that people run into. And some people, especially on the internet, are just plain crazy.
Yeah, it's just like the conspiracy theorists, they really come out, and I've seen some posts too, not just on the comments of people saying just crazy things. And it's like Benoit did this. The evidence was overwhelming that he
Yeah,
did this.
yeah.
Um, which was, one of the worst things that's ever happened in the wrestling business. But to link Kevin Sullivan to that just for the fact that he was married to Nancy Benoit first is insane.
Yeah, and I think too, those same people will turn around and say, "Bad booker, shitty creative, needed to be replaced." Right? So how did he book this crazy storyline with Benoit doing all this crazy stuff? You know what I mean? So it's hard, and we do have a couple future tag team champions
Well,
in waiting in the wings.
Kevin just had his second child, was born 2 days ago. So
Congratulations! That's
congrats,
awesome.
Kevin. He's the VP of the Nashville Sunday Co-ed League and a diehard fan of Ring and Free Thoughts.
I love it. I love it.
So shout out to Kevin.
Another exciting part of the Kevin Sullivan storyline, especially getting the Radicals into WWE, and I'm not going to get this 100% right, but maybe you know the full details. So one of the original Radicals was going to be Shane Douglas.
He was in the Revolution. Yeah, they were all in the Revolution together, except for Guerrero.
Right, but he was going to go to WWE with them.
Welcome, Kevin.
And very welcome. Congratulations. And, I think they didn't want to bring him to WWF because they thought that was going to hurt their chances of getting signed because he had some bad blood and he had issues with the clique and all this kind of stuff, right? So they actually went to a hotel, met with Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, probably a couple others, and all told Shane
Jim
Douglas.
Ross was probably there too.
Jim Ross, yep. He's talent relations at the time, and they told him another story. And he wasn't buying it. He caught them red-handed at the hotel, meeting with the WWF, and they left him behind and they moved on. But he was part of that. He was going to be part of that, and they made a pact. We don't go unless we all go. And then eventually they kind of kicked him out and said, we're not going to get this deal with him, and we got to leave him behind.
Yeah, it was always weird that Shane Douglas was in the New Blood too, because
he wasn't
after the fact he had been around for so long. I think he was like 35, 36 at the time. Right. I will say, I met him last November, and that was so cool. It's the most overrated. I don't think anybody overrates him at all. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. For most,
depends on who you ask. If you ask ECW diehards, he's the one who took the NWA title, threw it away, and became the ECW champion. So I guess it depends on who you ask. Maybe he is. Maybe he's overrated in the lore. Maybe not overall, but maybe in the lore.
I think if anything, he's underrated for what he did. I think he could have been something really in WWF, and they, things just didn't work out. But he was one of the coolest wrestlers I've met. I will say though, when I was videoing him wrestling, if you see the video, he tries to knock the camera out of my hand.
Did he really? Is he heel at the time, or is he just?
No, he was wrestling. He got punched, and I'm filming, and he comes over and just kind of whacks my phone, and that was pretty fun. But so I want to get into this. This has been and we're a little past it now.
Sure.
She's now won the gold. Amain Khalif from our where's she from again? Armenia. Where is she from?
She is from. You're right with Algeria.
Algeria. A lot of misinformation on this. A lot of people saying she was trans. Chances of that happening from that country very unlikely. What was your take on the internet that day?
That's right. It was Algeria. A little crazy. I mean, you go back to sort of those crazy Benoit people, probably some of the same people, honestly, who just want to believe what they want to believe. I think there was some confusion, and I think that's the danger of the internet, right? It's like she was dinged on a different circuit for too much testosterone, something like that, right? Someone picks up that story, they tweet it out, and now she's trans, and now she's beating up women. And I think stuff like that in today's internet snowballs really fast and gets really out of control. I'm not sure if you can hear Kiara yelling, but it gets to a point where there's almost like this point of no return, because once you've seen it on the internet, there's a lot of people who just believe it, right? They hear a story, they hear a rumor, and they just latch onto it. and you're never going to convince them otherwise. So the story got out. It got out with bad information, and then people ran with it. And then when you say no, that's not true, they won't hear it. Not at that point.
I thought the media did a poor job because that was the headlines and everything, saying she was disqualified. And I believe it was a Russian boxing or something like that.
Okay.
This was crazy. This was absolutely crazy. Now, I'm not one. I agree that transgender athletes on the women's side that is a very hot topic, and it's hard to say where you stand on that. But I mean, I understand that that doesn't seem fair, right? On the flip side, though, it also showed the hatred towards trans people is like pretty high.
It got
because
pretty dark. Yeah.
because a lot of things I saw weren't just mad about the results. Like it was just hatred,
Yeah.
and she's not even trans. It's just,
The hate is there, and they thought they finally had their like proof,
smoking gun, yeah.
right? So they ran with it, whether they were right or wrong, and they were wrong. So again, it just comes back to it's a really dangerous place, the internet, and news can travel that fast, and it sucks that it lasted that way. And it really uncovered an ugly side of sports and politics as a whole. And for the girl who quit,
she set this up.
You weren't expecting to get hit. Like you didn't think
you're boxing.
Oh, they hit too hard. I'm quitting. You're boxing. So I have a hard time believing that. And I think she kind of almost set it up a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like she's got a lawsuit against some defamation. I don't know how that works or is going to work here. I'll tell you what, man, I saw people I knew personally doubling down on stuff after the facts. And it was just like, it's the same thing with the Kevin Sullivan thing. People just want to believe whatever it is they want to believe. As long as it fits a narrative and the narrative they want, they're going to run with it. And I get it's just the internet, but all the comments, you're like, Jesus, like, come on, guys. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and even coming back to Logan Paul, which Bobby just mentioned, it's like, even he jumped on this, right? And he said that's the purest form of evil, meaning a man fighting a woman, which is not what happened again. But like, he has a huge platform, and when he says something, people listen, for better or worse, right? So for him to say something like that without having the full information, I think put him in a really rough spot too, and working for multiple global phenomenon companies, WWE being one, and his own brand, Prime being the other, and where he said some stuff that you really shouldn't be able to come back from, but it just keeps happening.
And there's a hidden meaning behind that. It's pure evil. The words that he used, it's like specific to what he's really trying to say.
Right. I mean, he knows exactly what he meant by that, and we all know exactly what he meant by that. And unfortunately, that's the sort of cultural situation we're in as a whole, especially during an election year where it's become a hot topic. I don't expect it to go away. I think it gave them a reason to start hating and to be able to be vocal about it.
Yeah, I think that's plain simple what it is, and it's unfortunate. And like we said, I think it's a very like difficult issue. Like obviously, yeah, trans athletes, that's a hot topic, but to use that pure evil, he's really trying to say trans people are evil. That's really where he's going with it. And Logan Paul is an idiot. Just because he's a good wrestler, he's still a moron.
It's unfortunate because we know him as Logan Paul the wrestler, but there are kids 10 to 18, maybe, I don't know. His audience is very young. So when he says something like that, he's not talking to us, he's talking to them. And they grow up with that feeling because my guy Logan Paul said it. So it's more detrimental to youth to hear from people in positions of power say the purest form of evil without knowing the facts than anything that can be said by you or I. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The whole thing is unfortunate. I hope she wins some of these lawsuits because what they're saying wasn't true. and man, it's just wild. People are wild. Absolutely.
Right.
Olympics overall, did you catch any of it?
Yeah, I watched a lot of it. I love it. Honestly, I love the Summer Olympics. I was a big track and field guy. I wouldn't say big. I did track and field. Was in cross country. So I do like watching those events. So I watched a ton of that. I watched the relays. I watched hurdles. I watched the I forget the name of the event. It's the something on, but it's women who have 6 events, and they all count towards one medal goal, which is probably the coolest thing I watched. And I watched Australian breakdancing, and that just gets funnier with every viewing.
Yeah, the breakdancing thing, is that going to come back? I think that's already done.
I don't know. Well, so it's out for 2028, but they voted on that long before Australia embarrassed it on a global stage. But you look at the breakdancing, Ray Gunn, yeah, that was her name, real name Rachel something or other. So yeah, she's hilarious to watch. But she had a degree in like human movement or something like that, and for some reason that made her qualified to do this thing. So I was kind of reading a little bit about it, and I was going into some of the breakdancing like stars in breakdancing. They're not stars by any other right. No offense to them, but they were really offended by it. They're saying like, this isn't representative of our sport. I work so hard for this. I almost like it, they need PR training, because the marketer in me is saying, you got more eyes on you than ever were before, and we never would have cared otherwise. What are you gonna do with it? Right? But they take it as like, no, it's our sport. We're brothers and sisters in arms. It's like, you got to let people in, man. And if this is the way they found you, fine. It's what you do next that matters. And I think they kind of took it in the wrong direction.
It's not something I would care to watch. I got to give a shout out to the women's rugby team taking a bronze medal. Obviously, we want to see rugby. At least I do want to see rugby grow in this country. Are you guys from Boston, New York? We're from New Hampshire, but close to Boston.
From Boston. Well, I'm not from Boston. I live in Massachusetts, but grew up
Yeah.
I
never try to claim any Massachusetts. We all know that I'm very happy.
I live here, so I do now. I've been here for 7 years now, which is crazy. It goes by fast.
But yeah, overall in the basketball, we won that again. Tatum, I guess they didn't play much. I didn't watch any of the games, I have to admit. Thought that was kind of weird, but
Tatum got benched quite a bit, and when they faced Serbia, which is arguably their hardest game, he didn't play a single minute. And he's a first team All NBA player. He's a
champion.
Champion, NBA champion, and far from the weakest link on the team. So it was really
John Smith.
There you go. So it was shocking to see him not play. I don't know what was going through Steve Kerr's head. I'd have to hear from him specifically, but it felt like a big miss to not have him do that. And you had 2 other Celtics. You had Drew Holiday, you had Derek White. So we got a representation in a lot of ways, but really Tatum is the guy, and I don't understand why he would sit during the Olympics.
Well, either way, they got the gold. So I guess
the games were great. Steph Curry, holy crap, is he unbelievable? Some of the shots he hits, I just don't know how he does it.
Yeah,
it's crazy. He actually has a new show. Sorry, I got to Google it really quick. He has a new show on Peacock called Mr. Throwback, where it's basically he's Steph Curry, and he plays Steph Curry.
Oh, I've seen commercials for this. Yeah,
but he played high school basketball with this guy, and or junior high basketball, and he was supposed to be the next Jordan, but his dad was lying about his age. So, sort of a Danny Almonte type thing. And this is the story of his like redemption and trying to get, at first he's trying to kind of get money out of Steph, but then it grows into this whole other thing. It's worth the watch. I sat down, I watched it one night, like maybe 20-minute episodes. So watch that, because I thought Steph Curry was really funny in that, and I thought the show as a whole was pretty funny too.
Well, maybe I'll have a career after basketball there,
Yeah, there you go.
I want to give a shout out to the New England Free Jacks winning their second MLR championship. Man, what a year at Fort Quincy. I mean, they struggled at home, still pulled out the championship, and they had a big parade in Quincy the other day. They didn't get to make it. I wish I did. Any thoughts on the Free Jacks? Think it'll be a three-peat?
I mean, I don't see why not. They seem to be the class of the league. They've played a lot of different teams. They've been to the finals 3 years in a row. Did they lose in the finals 3 years?
They lost in the Eastern Conference Final in 2022.
So they know how to build. They know how to keep talent that they need. Every time I've been there, it's packed. So they have a crowd that's dedicated to the team, and I think the team is dedicated to the crowd. So I think when you have that, especially in a league of that size, I think you have a lot on your shoulders, but they seem to rise to the occasion. So I really do think the team has a chance to do a three-peat. Absolutely.
And I also want to give a shout out here to Wayne Vanderbank. He is for the third year in a row. Not only that, the Free Jacks had the league MVP last year. Jason Patras the year before, Bodine Waka. So it's just, they've just created a culture of winning. And I get it's an upcoming league. Who knows, where the league goes or anything. But I really do feel like they're getting a lot of eyes in the New England area on rugby. And the whole point of the MLR is to grow this sport. And, for the women to go get a bronze medal, I just think that I'm hoping that rugby just continues to grow in the United States. Down with the rugby elitists.
Yeah, I think it has they have a chance to grow. They're outgrowing their space. So, that's a risky time for any franchise, right? Where they're in this growth period and they're winning. They have these fans. So now, do we put our money where our mouth is? Do we get a bigger venue? Can we keep it in Quincy? Can we, there's a lot of question marks up there. I think if they keep winning, they're going to be able to, be a pretty storied franchise in Major League Rugby.
Well, the thing is, the lease in Quincy is like a 10-year lease. So
you can buy it, right? If you have money.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't know. Obviously, there's money behind it, but they are drawing better than most league. What always makes me nervous is you look at the Boston Cannons. They were profitable, they were good, but the rest of the league wasn't. And that's now, Major League Lacrosse, I don't believe that's even a league anymore. So that's something to always be nervous about. But in the time being, it's great to see this, and I want to see all the teams do well. I know I give Tim Hogan a lot of crap, but I want to see the league succeed as a whole.
Yeah, listen, Tim makes it to every DC home game.
Yeah,
paints his face. He's out there. He's trying to.
They did move to Connecticut, but the league fell apart, to my knowledge. So, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that Tim's probably the number one rugby fan I know, and I think he's doing a hell of a job leading the charge in DC. But they just don't have the following yet. But I'd love to see the whole league grow. It's just like, what goes into that, right? It comes back to me being like the marketer in me says, like, every time I go to a Free Jacks game, there's some type of gimmick there. You know what I mean? Like last time, I think they had like a beer garden or something like that, and you could try all these different ciders and stuff. So let's say I didn't like rugby, I'd still go for that, and maybe I stick around for the game. Maybe I like it. You know what I mean? And that's how you really grow the game, is having other attractions. That's why minor league baseball teams have something happening in between innings. Or they invite someone, sometimes they do wrestling in the park. Sometimes they do, they'll have like the dog bat boy, or, sometimes it's just always some type of gimmick that gets you in the door. And once you're in the door, it's my job to get you hooked. Right. So like I haven't been to any other games besides the Free Jacks. So I'd love to see what they're doing to draw crowds, because it goes beyond the sport at a league this size. Like people in Quincy want something to do. People in the Quincy area want something to do. Give them something to do, and tie it up with a nice rugby game.
And the city has embraced it, because there's a lot of people living in Quincy going to these games. So hopefully it continues. Yeah, I did find another lot that I didn't know existed, but Bobby's talking about down with the rugby elitists. And that's an issue too. Is some of these diehard rugby fans, they got to understand, you have to grow it. So that people are going to have to learn the sport. So you can't be that know-it-all, shunning people that don't know stuff about rugby, or people that aren't embracing all of the rugby culture. you have to Americanize it a little bit too.
Yeah, it's the same thing I said about the breakdancing crew, right? They're like, this is our breakdancing family. We're going to defend it. It's like, you can't gatekeep your sport and grow it at the same time. So if you want to like give people a hard time for not knowing, you're just going to turn them off from it altogether, and you're going to fold. There's this whole other side of, there's a business side of it, right? That I don't think that as a fan, it's not really your job to think about, right? But it is part of it, and they can't grow the sport without growing the game. You know what I mean? And the game is the game day, the whole experience.
Because you're not gonna, it's not gonna grow if it's just the people that just already know rugby, right? You have to get that other part of the crowd that's being introduced to it. Dave, part of the Jacks Ranger show, he goes around with a shirt saying, "If you got any questions, I'm your guy." And he knows the ins and outs of the game, so he wears those to the games and stuff. So you got to grow it, and you got to support those new fans coming in, and you got to keep them coming back. So
well, that's the thing. The people who are the gatekeepers and the diehards, they bought a shirt 2 years ago. They tailgate. They get all their food before they go in the venue. They have the bleacher seat. They're not people who are going to grow they're not going to spend a ton of money while they're in there. They don't have to. It's really the people like, I can only make it to like a game or so every now and then, or whatever it is, that might invest in a little bit, right? So that's part of it too, and also getting families in there. That's how you draw and how you make money too. Is a shirt for every kid and for every parent, and then a hot dog here and a soda there. It's like they need money to make it grow, and you can't gatekeep a whole sport and expect it to do well.
And I have to say, the New England fans are really good about that. They're very welcoming to outside fans coming in. And the other cool thing about MLR is being a small upcoming league, you can meet the players right after the game. You can walk right on the field after the game. You couldn't do that in Gillette Stadium. You couldn't do that in Fenway Park. You couldn't do that at the Garden.
Listen, I went to the Free Jacks games. If I suited up and went on the field, I don't know if anyone would stop me. I didn't see any. Not that I would, but you can't get much closer to the game than that.
No, you're right. You're right there. So it's a great atmosphere, great place. Highly recommend. And let's just keep growing the MLR. Salem. They went there. Salem, not far from me, not far from you. Made it to the Little League World Series. Are they already out? What happened there?
Has it started?
I don't know, but what did you think of Salem making it?
I'm glad to see a hometown team make it. There's usually someone around us that does it, so it's not easy. And I think it's nice to see some kids get to go there. They lost today, but for them, it's an experience. You know what I mean? So it's just good for the kids. Like, talk about growing the game, right? So they'll play again Saturday. Talk about growing the game. Those kids getting that experience, going there and playing in Williamsport, whatever it is, and meeting the other kids and playing the game. And also, that's what's important about sports at that age. It's less about winning or losing, in my opinion. Although I think winning is important. I'm not saying participation trophies by any means, but it's really the experience that they're getting is one that you can't get again, right? Like, you can't go back to Little League as an adult, right? So this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for them. And whether they win, lose, or draw, I hope they make the most of it.
I've always been fascinated because we grew up in Nashua, where it was Cal Ripken, but there was a Little League in Nashua, just not really anybody played in it.
Yeah.
And so around here, it's like Cal Ripken really is, Cal Ripken is better than Little ESPN League. Yeah. I've always found that weird that Little League's always got all the, I don't know, what am I looking for? All the prestige and all this stuff, while a lot of people are playing. It was Bambino when I was growing up. A lot of people playing that. Why is that not on television?
It's who sold out. That's the thing. You go to these kids' sports, you can go on any betting app right now and bet on Salem. Literally,
that's not cool. That's weird. That's horrible.
You know what I mean? So it's maybe some leagues don't like that. Maybe some leagues want to keep it to about the sport. And I think Cal Ripken League has its own version of all of this, right? But yeah, it's just not as commercialized in a lot of ways. And part of that is just ESPN maybe seeing an opportunity.
I remember just being a kid being like, I don't play Little League. I play Bambino. And it was just never Jets was never anywhere. Like it was all about Little League. And then Dreams Park now exists, Cooperstown, played there. We played there. And now, that's getting probably a mix of Rick in Little League because there's opponent league rules to my knowledge. Maybe it's changed in Cooperstown where the bases are a little further back.
Yep, they're 70 feet. They're 70 feet instead of 60, 90 as an adult. So yeah, it is a little bit different, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, you and I both went. I think when I went, it was taking off, and I think it's become it's taken a whole new life since then. But again, you can point to a bevy of stars who played in Cooperstown, right? I mean, if you Google your year, I bet you'll find someone who made it, which is crazy. Maybe you didn't play against them because they come by weeks, but it's an experience. And you go, you play the field, you play like a big leaguer, you live in the barracks. I mean, it's just a different experience. It's one you can't get outside of Little League, outside of Cooperstown, outside of Little League World Series. So I think it's a lot of fun. JR's not going to make it. You can't.
Well, I'll tell you this. Now, I go through my Facebook feed. I just see all these families that I know going every year. And it's great because I went there the first year it opened, 96. And that's almost 30 years ago now. So this thing's been really, really going. They do a broadcast just on fake news. Oh, Keeks has arrived. The real star of Ringing Free Thoughts.
You see Uncle Dan? She's going to freeze up. She doesn't know what to do with the camera.
Hi, Keeks. Hi, Keeks.
Let's get her thoughts on the, what's the next question? Let's get her thoughts.
Let's see here. John Henry looking to possibly buy the Celtics. Kiara, what's your take on that?
Stay away from the Celtics. I got to agree. I do not want him anywhere near the Celtics because he's the definition of for profit out of these. And if you're going to spend all that money on a team, you want to, of course, make a profit. But I would hate to see him buy the team and do what he's done with the Red Sox and try to play this small ball. They'll pay for it anyways. I don't need to do much. I would hate for him to, or the Red Sox group, in any shape or fashion, have anything to do with the Celtics.
Well, I mean, he's won 4 championships with the Red Sox. So it's like, I know a lot of people have been frustrated with them as of late, but got to give the guy some credit.
You got to give him credit for those years, but look at it since then. He shipped out everyone. We have more losing records than winning records since then, and it almost feels intentional. They have a lot of investments, and they have a lot of other things on their agenda, and sometimes the Red Sox tend to take a back seat. When they started last season, it felt like they were rolling out a minor league team. And I think for the money you spend on the Red Sox to get a ticket, to buy a drink, to grab a hot dog, to get a jersey, still one of the most profitable franchises in the world. Spend money. Get the team into a position. We don't have to win the World Series every year. I don't think that's even possible, but they should be in contention. And these 75 win seasons they've been having, 74, 75, won't cut it.
I'll tell you one thing that was always funny. I remember we went to the game where Poppy said, "This is our bleeping city," right after the bombings. But it was the year that they said it was going to be half price hot dogs, half price beers. And we get in there, and the hot dogs were in a special line. The half price beers were in a special line. And I remember just being in I don't, at the time I still drank, the beers were like that big. Yeah. And it was like, this was the gimmick to get people in the door, and it wasn't legit. Yeah. I thought that was pretty bad marketing, pretty bad delivery on that too.
Yeah. I think they lost their way sometimes. And 2013, they almost had to win, right? Which was cool to see them win. 2018, they did it without Ortiz. Like, that was a whole another generation. That was like the Mookie Betts World Series, although he doesn't tend to perform well in the playoffs. The team had changed, and you had the Killer Bees in the outfield, and it just felt like we were starting again, right? And then 1 year later, 2 years later, they were all gone.
Well, they fired Dombrowski like the next year, and that's the guy who built the team.
They spent all their money.
Yeah, and they shipped him out.
But then, Bradley let's be honest, didn't have a bat to be in the major leagues. Mookie Betts, they sold for a song. You know, who else was on that team? Trying to
I mean,
think.
Chris Sale didn't pan out.
Martinez gone. Sale is having a comeback year.
Of course.
Evaldi, they let him walk. Martinez, they let him walk. It's a pain. But you almost thought like they were building something. Here's a team that's going to be tough to come for years to come, and then they just stopped.
Yeah, that was so. I mean, I don't know what the likelihood is he's going to buy this, but I would imagine he's going to come right in and I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's even guys like Benintendi who were not, major stars, but were serviceable players. They just got rid of. The fan favorites they got rid of for nothing. So I would hate for them to buy the Celtics and do the same thing, because we have a core team that's signed on for a little while, and if you say I'm gonna lose Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Porzingis is on a short term, Drew Holiday, you just have a lot of players that you got to keep, and I don't think John Henry has any desire to keep them all because it's too expensive. And I think that's why they're selling them. I think they built this massive franchise with a ton of overhead, and we're like, I don't want to be the bad guy who has to get rid of Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum to save a buck, because that's got to happen at some point. And
it's
John
crazy.
Hesitate.
It's crazy that they win the championship and put the team up for sale.
Yeah,
that's just kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I was going to ask this. You said you've never seen Breaking Bad, never seen any of it at all?
No. I've maybe seen, when like you're scrolling through Facebook and they play like 30-second clips of shows or something like that.
Yes, I love it.
I've seen that, but no, I never watched Breaking Bad.
You really? So the owner's 90. Oh, okay. I got to say, you got to see it. You have to watch it. Breaking Bad is just phenomenal. Have you seen any of Cobra Kai, the new Cobra Kai?
I saw the whole thing. Yeah.
The new ups. What did you think? Try them without a spoiler. What did you think of the new season?
I thought it was okay. I thought it was maybe a little repetitive. I thought there's always like the next thing that's in the way, and it always kind of comes back. So yeah, I mean, I've had trouble suspending disbelief at times with Cobra Kai, where they're like in the middle of a high school and they're like, "You got a problem in my karate dojo?" It's like, yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, those are nerds. I'm sorry, but so sometimes I've had trouble with that. I will say the new season, I am fully invested because I need to finish it. I need to see the end. I think that Billy Zabka, or William Zabka, has done a great job in that role. I think he's really funny. So I think he's done a good job in that role, but the story is kind of dried up, and I'm still waiting for like the new thing. And it's just kind of rehashing a lot.
I have to say, I thought it was going in a good direction, and maybe it will get back on track. But the ending of what I've seen so far is like, tell a different story.
Yeah.
You guys went right back into the ending is like, you just went right back into what you've already done.
You just threw away the whole story you just built with those two characters.
Johnny to be mad at Dan, and spoiler alert, Johnny, I'm not going to say too much, but for Johnny to be mad at Daniel again made absolutely no sense. The other things that happened at the end of that, like, it just is, you're telling the same story and you're trying to fit a puzzle piece that doesn't fit from the story that you were telling throughout those 5 or 6 episodes. So it is dried up. It's just, how are you going to finish this, put a nice bow on it? Because right now, like, watching that, I wasn't like, when's the new rest of them come out in November? I wasn't like clamoring for them. I wasn't like, at the end of that, I was like, oh, this is dog shit. Like, I'm good.
I was a little annoyed. It went from this kind of like this dojo that's teaching kids the wrong things and has lost its way to like, wait, these guys are like murderous in a lot of ways.
And that's, yeah.
I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around that. The sword fights at the end of last season. You should have seen last season by now. I hope I'm not spoiling that. But like, what are you doing? This is karate, man. This is youth karate. This is like crazy little league parents on a crazy another level, and I just can't wrap my head around it.
I also thought in this new season, the Kreese story sucks. Like, it's just so repetitive and just so like, find another route, guys. Like, this is just the same thing over. And I said, somebody asked me because I was wearing an Eagle Fang karate shirt in the grocery store. A guy starts, and I said, don't tell me you were happy with those episodes. It's like, well, they weren't as good. I go, it's the same thing over and over and over. It's the same story over and over. And it's like, I thought they were doing something different, and then they pivoted out of nowhere to the same story they always tell.
Yeah.
And I think this thing has I think for sure it's run its course.
Yeah.
You know,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, we were talking about Breaking Bad before, and how did they have a perfect story throughout, and how did they have a perfect ending? They did 5 seasons, and they kept it simple, and they kept always telling something new. Cobra Kai, I know it's a different scenario, but like it hasn't been fresh for a while. You know?
And a lot of shows that run for a long time see that, right? It's like you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, right? That's the old Batman quote. But if you go back and watch like The Walking Dead, phenomenon. It was a phenomenon. It was everywhere, zombies, and it was like the new thing. The whole first 5 or 6 seasons was, this place looks safe. Well, no, it's not. The people are more dangerous than the zombies. Like, okay, we get it. You told that story. What's next? Like, you got to give me something else to keep me invested. And I think that's where people lose their way, especially in today's world where we are digesting these episodes all at once. Like I talked about that Steph Curry show. I watched that within 2 hours. I watched Cobra Kai in one night. So it's like we're not investing that time anymore. We're not sitting and waiting for it. We're knocking it out in a night and then we're done. And if you don't give me a reason to come back to it, which Cobra Kai hasn't, maybe the first season or 2, you just don't. It's not a good show. You know.
Well, the only good thing about Netflix is you can bang them all out. Like people fell off Walking Dead because they were sick of waiting every Sunday for a new episode to just not progress. Yeah. You would kill off characters that people enjoyed without replacing them with a better character. Like Breaking Bad, they could kill somebody off and then they give you a really good character for the next time. Walking Dead, after Terminus, it just kind of, you waited for Negan and you waited for Negan. And then I think the initial getting Negan was good. And then it got to a point where I was like, I was one of the last people to give up on that show. And I would tune in every week and be like, nothing happened again.
Yeah. They kill off a character and not even address it in the next episode at times. And I think when they killed Glenn, I think that's when a lot of people stopped. That's when I stopped watching because I think they had lost their audience. They'd lost their way. I know it happened in the comic book. I know there's pieces of that, right? But you had a character, the redhead guy. They killed him, and everyone's like, "Oh, thank God!" It was no one I cared about. Shouldn't be a character like that at all. And then 2, you killed Abraham. Then you killed Glenn, who you kind of hinted at. He almost died the episode or season before, and you said, "All right, he's been through his thing," but then he gets his face bashed in, and you're just like, "Ew, I don't want to watch this anymore." You know what I mean? It was a real turnoff. And I think they had lost their way. They leaned too hard into the guts and gore and not enough into the storytelling. They weren't thinking long term.
I'll be honest, when I stopped watching around the time Rick left the show, and I was like, nah, you don't have that main character that I was still tuning in to watch. And that was sort of like the final straw. And then they fast forwarded a few years. But I was just watching every week being like, this just isn't worth waiting every Sunday. So now that you have other ways to watch it, like maybe on Netflix, I'd go back and I'd watch some of this where I can just bang it out. But when you're waiting all week for another episode and you're not delivering, You're not going to keep your audience. And that's what, like, Cobra Kai can kind of get away with this because I could bang that out in one night. And if I'm disappointed, I'm not waiting for it. You know what I mean? So they kind of get away with that. And I'm going to watch it. But if this was a weekly show, like, I'm not tuning in after that last episode. I'm not waiting for that Sunday to keep dragging this out.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. Will you watch the Walking Dead movies? They're going to make a movie about Rick and Michonne, I think.
Well, they have a show. They have their own TV show right now.
Oh, I thought it was a movie.
There was talk. That was years ago. They talked about that. That movie never came,
Oh.
and now they have a TV show. And then Negan and she was married to Glenn. Can't think of her name right now. Negan and
I can't think of her name either.
So they have a show where they're like in New York City during this zombie apocalypse situation. Maggie. And I guess that's an interesting story because Negan became a good guy. He's the one that killed Glenn, and now they're, but
he's also the one that killed Alpha of the Whisperers.
Yeah. Well, yes. Actually, I will say this: the Whisperers, I stuck around for a little bit of that. That was actually pretty cool.
I watched it back. I had skipped maybe the season or two before that, but I watched the Whisperers and I thought that's a cool story because in the comics they have who was actually I forget the actor's name, but I believe is Gary Bertier from Remember the Titans, played Beta, and in the comics or in the show, I forget which one's which, but he's a basketball player in the comics, a very recognizable, famous person. Which is the first time they really introduced that. It's usually people who were just like gym teachers or something before, but this was like everybody knew who he was. And I think maybe in the show he was a country music star and people were like, oh, it's you're that guy. And he would kill them because he didn't want them to know who he was. He just really became Beta. And I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that whole story was pretty cool. When he first saw the zombie and he thought it was a zombie and Jesus goes to kill him and he gets killed because he doesn't realize it's a person.
Phenomenal scene. Who
saw that coming, right? So I think
phenomenal.
That was pretty cool.
That was a really cool time for the show, and honestly, it died a slow death. I can, writing these shows, it's got to be hard, and I think that's why Breaking Bad killed it, because they knew they had a roadmap all the way to the end, and they were going to do it in so many seasons. And there's just so many shows that just struggle with an ending. But a lot of people always ripped on the Sopranos ending. When I look back on it now, I go, that was a fitting ending.
Makes sense.
So anyways, good stuff. I want to see how it ends, but right now it's kind of frustrating.
They got to wait.
All right, now we want to get into, so Scott McVicker not here. You're subbing in for him. We do a segment here called Best Week Ever and Crumb Bum of the Week. I have Scott's picks. I have mine. Let's get your takes on them.
Okay.
Scott's Best Week Ever is, I wish I wrote down the name here. We needed Scott for this. Hold on. I didn't think of this. It is a pole vaulter by the name of French pole vaulter Anthony Amariti. This was Scott's Best Week Ever. Are you familiar with him? Because I am not. Without Scott, I don't know how much sense this makes.
He's the bulge guy. I guess there was comments about him having a bulge while he was doing his pole vault during the Olympics.
Isn't his last name 8 inches? I don't know anything about this. So, Scott, this was his pick. What do you think? Is he having the best week ever? This was again for last week. So,
I mean, it seems like he had a decent Olympics. He was unsuccessful at 5.7 meters, which is high. But if people are just talking about his wiener, after all of that, even if he didn't do 100% well in the Olympics, I guess that's a good week, right? I mean,
it's like Hawktua Girl in a way. He's picked her before.
If you're going to show your wiener on a global stage, you want good feedback, right? So I can imagine he's upset.
I'll get into my best week ever because this might be easier for us. The tribal chief, the original tribal chief, Roman Reigns, and again, this was for last week because that's when we were supposed to film it. Roman Reigns returns at SummerSlam. Crowd was hot. He showed up. He's not the original tribal chief. If you watch SmackDown too, they were very hot for him. To me, Roman Reigns is having the best week ever. He's now the baby face everybody always wanted to be 9 years ago.
Yeah, I think he's finally settled into that role, and it took this historic championship reign to get there, and I think he's earned it, right? So people wanted him back, people wanted him in that moment, and I think a lot of credit has to go to the new bloodline too, which I don't always love. But if people didn't want to see them get their butts kicked, Roman's obviously going to always get a warm welcome. But I think people are like, good, please don't put the belt on Solo. Here comes Roman Reigns. Here comes the bloodline civil war. It's pretty cool. I think it's good storytelling. I think it's good for him. I think, he's now going to have a run that he wanted to have a couple years ago. And I think he's got to feel a little bit vindicated that I knew I could be this, and I needed to get the gloves off. I think I had heard his final straw was the Dolph Ziggler, Baron Corbin dog food thing. When they just rubbed dog food all over his face. That's when he was like in the Sucker and Succotash promo, where he's like, you're making me look like an idiot and I can't do this anymore. And he really put his ground. So you want me to be the guy, let me be the guy and let me do it my way. And he did that. And I respect it.
Well, I think they learned something too, because when the pandemic broke out, he was like, I'm out. And when he came back, he's like, you're going to do what I want to do. And to be quite frank, the tribal chief, the bloodline with Paul Heyman, all of this has been the best story in not only WWE, but all of pro wrestling for 4 years. And then what they like, so much came out of it. Let's be honest, Mike. You didn't know the difference between Jay and Jimmy before the bloodline. Jay Uso now is a certified star.
Yeah. A lot of people they worked with are star. They raised Kevin Owens stock. They made Sami Zayn a star. Cody came in hot, but they made him who the American Nightmare he is today. Solo Sikoa got a go of it. Jay became a star. Jimmy feels like the only one who hasn't gone anywhere. I don't know if he's hurt or maybe he's hurt, but ever since Mania, he's kind of been out of the picture. I think the storytelling is really good too. What's up, Wyndham? I think I think you had Jey Uso and Roman they had the tribal combat, and Jimmy screwed over Jay, and he said, "I just didn't want you to become tribal chief because I know it makes people evil." And here you go, Roman became evil, then Solo became evil, and then Tama Tonga or something, he picked up the necklace and looked at it before he gave back, like it almost like had a power over him, right? There's long-term storytelling happening here that wasn't happening in WWE prior, and I think the bloodline is a big part of that and a big benefactor of that. But I think it's like they know how to do it now. Whoever they've hired and they've tried the different camera angles and they've done all that, I think they've changed a lot. And Roman was the guy to carry that torch, and I think he deserved it after being the big dog for so long. Bobby loved the big dog. Bobby was #1 big dog fan.
He was one of the only people I knew that was into that.
I always liked Roman. I thought people would say you can't wrestle. Yeah. Like, yeah, you can. What are we talking about?
I liked Roman, but I didn't like the character. Like it wasn't anything like when he's main eventing all these WrestleManias. That's not the match that I'm looking like when it's the main event. That's the match you want to look forward to. And I can't say any of those main events. Let's be just quite frank. WrestleMania 40, 39. I really could not wait for those main events. What was 38? Roman, Edge, Daniel Bryan. I didn't care all that much. I think the year before, or one of these years, was Brock and Roman. I don't know which year that was.
Yeah, I think Undertaker Roman.
Maybe that was 38. I'm losing the order, but that's because these main events didn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
Right. The ones that specifically with Roman, and 38 was Brock. Okay. Cody and Roman back-to-back years. I couldn't wait for that match. And that's what a WrestleMania main event needs to be. And it's like they had been missing, may have been different pandemic because Drew McIntyre was getting hot shotted to the main event with Brock, but then it took place in the Performance Center, and then it was just lackluster, right? But there was Undertaker Roman, didn't care, right? They had Brock versus Roman another year, didn't care. Now I want to see Roman Reigns. And, a lot of people said after WrestleMania 40, well, what does Roman Reigns do now? And Triple H is like, just wait, and you will see how good this is going to be.
Yeah.
And it's all coming. So the storytelling has gotten so much better. And there's people out there like looking to criticize Triple H. Now, Triple H isn't writing all of this, but he's got the right people in the creative process. And I feel like wrestling fans are always going to find something that they hate. I tune into Raw. I can't wait for Raw now because I put it on and it's like, what's going to happen next? Look at all the progress. Look at the stuff with Dominic Mysterio, Rhea Ripley. They've made Liv Morgan interesting, like very interesting. Like it's rolling on all cylinders. And if you take it back, Cody's the top guy, but Roman is the top guy. And now everybody loves him to be a babyface.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And the title reign was good. His matches were good. They finally gave him theme music of his own so he could break out of that sort of Shield type role.
Yes.
He started wearing the thing. He started doing the tribal chief. There was Paul Heyman. So there's a lot of people working with Roman to get him there. But you got to give him credit because he was the one who take the ball and run with it. And he had so many passing of the torch matches. He had one with Daniel Bryan before. He had one with The Undertaker. He had one with John Cena. It's like, okay, we get it, But this is where he finally set himself apart. I'll say the match with Edge and Daniel Bryan is probably one of the best matches he's had. It's a great match, and it really solidified him as the guy. Because you think Edge has the story, Daniel Bryan has the story, but Roman Reigns is the story, and you didn't see that coming. I think the only thing about that match that I would go back and change is, and I believe I have this right, but they used the Shield music, and they had the head of the table music ready, but he didn't want to use it right away. He was like, this isn't the moment, and they held on to it for a few weeks after that, and then he brought in the theme music that we know and love today. I didn't like when he became this new guy, and he was using the Shield music, because I was like, I can't separate him from the Shield as long as he's using that music.
I'm surprised that went on for as long as it did. There are a lot more to yeah, absolutely. There's just a lot of stories to be told, and yeah, I mean, honestly, I think Roman is the number one guy at this point, and but there's so many other role players too. Like, I mean, to get Cody Rhodes back the way that they did, and then they could tell that story, and now Cody's the champion. You can go on with this for a while, and you can have Roman come back to it. Like, it's just. Yeah, they're rolling on all cylinders.
And then you have The Rock still lurking too, because they had that People's Champ, WWE Champ little handoff type thing, and so you have a lot to look forward to, and you have that you're getting that swerve bro type moments, but you're also getting this long-term storytelling that's finally starting to make sense, and everything is meaning something, and wins mean something, losses mean something. You got Jey Uso's a huge star now, at least in the wrestling world. Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, and then you do have Rhea, you have Becky Lynch, who may or may not have retired. I don't know what that whole thing was about, but you have Sami Zayn, you have Randy Orton. It's like we're in a renaissance of wrestling.
Damian Priest, you have Gunther, you have Dominic Mysterio is now one of the most entertaining things on television.
Yep.
When he first came in, I was like, and then he progressed. Like, it's just rolling on a lot of different ways,
The only storyline thing I have trouble with is the Dominic Mysterio one, and I love the work that they're doing. It's great. I just watch for the entertainment. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not a nitpicky fan, but he joined the Judgment Day because Rhea Ripley was beating the crap out of him every week. Now he finds a woman who's like, I love you for you, and Daddy Dom and all this stuff, and everyone's like, how could she
lets me have tendies when I want. Well, that's how things progress, though. Now he's heel. He was heel before, but now Rhea's a baby face, and Rock and Cody at Rome. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I don't. Yeah, those are possible. There's a lot of possibilities here.
I would hate to see Cody drop the belt to The Rock, to be honest, because I think you could drop it to someone and make them versus The Rock, who's already.
I don't think The Rock. I don't think that you'll see The Rock as the champion.
I just think they still want that Rock versus Roman main event potentially.
Well, but they definitely have already put out there that Cody and Rock are going to have a match. They did that the night after Mania, so that's gonna how this is going to happen. We don't know, but like there's just so many possibilities. But I'm so glad that they pivoted this year because I really think. Well, at first they pivoted to The Rock and then they pivoted back. It would have been a real big mistake to not capitalize on the Cody Rhodes story at WrestleMania. It just would have been a really bad idea. I have to say, I don't like The Rock's interviews on that because he's saying if he would have done us, it would have been bigger to everybody, even outside of wrestling. And he said, he's just saying how only wrestling fans want to see Cody Rhodes win. And I say to The Rock to that's what should matter.
Yeah.
You guys, the WWE is a $1 billion company. I'm sorry, but we're the ones that follow it all year. And if you just want to get that big, The Rock's in the like, I just didn't like the way he answered that question, to be honest.
Part of you has to ask, does he answer that question in character or some variation of that character, or
I think he was serious. He's he's one of the highest paid people in Hollywood, and I get that. And he knows. Here's the deal: like in a way, though, it's just like, well, wrestling fans, they're gonna watch this regardless.
Right.
But now we can pull in. It's like, well, wait a second here. You're still gonna make. They made $1 million off Cody Rhodes merchandise at WrestleMania weekend.
Everyone was wearing it. I mean, we were there. Everyone was wearing it.
Yeah,
absolutely everyone.
It wasn't in the best interest of the TKO show. Nah, Jabroni, it's long term. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Anyways.
But, when we were at Mania, they kept playing Cody's music for a long time after.
Shout out to Kendall. What's up, Kendall?
After he won. And all the way to the back to our car, people were popping for the whoa part. They were singing the songs. They were like, people were amped, and it just felt like the right time to do it. And I honestly thought last year was the year, and they didn't pull the trigger on Cody, and I was shocked. But it seemed, if you trust the process and just watch it, they could build something like they did this year, and I thought that was amazing. And there's a lot more to come. There's a lot more story here to build on.
I'll be honest, like, I wanted it at 39, and I'm glad it didn't happen. One, because we got to be there. But two, but again, like that's sometimes how wrestling fans are. We want it right away. They knew, like, if we progress this longer, it's going to make it even bigger than it would have been at 39. And it really was like, people were going nuts. I mean, everybody left WrestleMania like happy as they possibly could be.
Yeah, I think because of the atmosphere of it too, we it's similar to our conversation with Cobra Kai, right? It's storytelling. You're telling the same story again. I would have done it this way. We do that with wrestling too, and for some reason, it's looked at differently when we nitpick wrestling. But I am a big proponent of just enjoy it, just enjoy the ride. I knew the WrestleMania 39 drove me nuts with the Cody loss, but I knew they were building to something. That wasn't going to be the end of it, right? But then you spend the year trying to get there. It's just you invest so much time. You want what you want out of it. And when you don't get it, you get upset. And that's the same with everything else in life. And I think whatever they're going to do with this storyline, they got me hooked. So wherever the ride takes me, I'm on for it.
No, it's just a lot of good things. A lot of good things happening. And it's just that the thing is, like, wrestling is like fun again. It's just like you tune in, you're like, this is going to be a good time when you tune in. There were times where it's like, you're doing the same. It's the Usos versus the New Day for the 70th time. And you did it last week. And it's fun. It's just fun to tune in now.
Vince
You know?
McMahon had to go. We don't have to get into the whole reason why he's gone, but he had to go to make room for.
And at some point, Triple H will have to go. Like, I think you have to have new hands in this all the time. It's just like coaches, right? Like in sports, like you get a new set of eyes, right? And the new set of eyes comes in and they can see things that the other person did, because people get stuck in their ways, and you just always have to have different things going on. But right now, it's great.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
all right, I want to get into our favorite segment of the show, which is...
But you don't have the courage. You're a real crumb bum. Put that on camera. You're a creep.
So, again, Scott is not here. He is a no-show. We don't know if you have seen Scott McVicker. Let us know. But so Scott's crumb bum of the week, and I don't know much about this because these were Scott's picks, but maybe you do. He went with Antonio Brown. Is he going on a Twitter tirade again? Is this something I'm missing? I have not thought about Antonio Brown in months, or maybe even years.
Antonio Brown's an awful person. Just not a good guy. I think he's always going off on Twitter. He has even a hashtag he goes with now, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but he just sucks. I think he could be a candidate for this every single week, just because he's always saying something stupid. And he knows what to do. Calls himself CTESPN, I think, is what he calls himself. And I just have a hard time wrapping my head around anything he says, because he's just such a jerk.
Do you think there's got to be something going on with him?
It has
to walk off. I don't know if that's ever happened in the history of the NFL. Just taking it and saying, I'm out of here in the middle of a game. Like, it's got to be a record. I don't think anybody's ever, that I can think of, has ever done that, or at least a high profile player.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think Tom Brady did a lot for him, bringing him into multiple franchises, and he just couldn't help him out. And then to treat him like that after that, because he didn't get the ball, something's wrong with him. Something's not right in his head. I think the other thing too, he had agreed with Jaron Duran's takes on a heckler at a Sox game. So he had said some stuff around that about it's just comedy, you let him say it, and maybe that's part of it too. But I think he's just not really a good guy. I think he says a lot of stupid stuff.
Yeah, he's just kind of lost it. I don't think about Antonio Brown. Honestly, I don't. Like, when he said Antonio Brown, I'm like, he's old news. He's old news. Like, the guy went crazy. We know he's crazy. We know he's going to say something ridiculous. I just don't think about him. I just don't. I'm not in the Twitter space, but yeah.
Yeah, we almost got to stop giving him a platform.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like some of these people, if you ignore them, they're going to go away. And or they're just don't make the guy relevant,
Yeah.
But
you don't have the courage. You're a real crumb bum. Put that on camera. You're a creep.
For me, I thought this was simple, because we talked about it already. Just people on social media, just the what's the word I'm looking for here? Just the mob mentality and the posts and the amount of misinformation spread and people showing some of their true colors that I hope aren't, because I think the people are a little different on social media than they would be in real life. But with the boxer there, it's just a lot of things said by even people I know that I was like, I can't believe you think that way.
Yeah, I mean,
do you really think that way?
Right. There's different people on the internet. The people you see on Facebook, they really believe that. That's what I go by. But if you go to Twitter or TikTok, sometimes it's there's a lot of engagement farming, and when there's a topic that's hot at the time, they feel like they have to give a hot take because it'll get people to comment, share, subscribe, whatever it might be. And that's kind of, again, it comes back to the dangers of the internet. It doesn't have to be true. It's just what gets people to look at it, right? It's Even with the Hawk Tua girl, right? Look at her. I got no problems with her making money off it, but all she did was give a weird interview and people like glommed onto it. Now she's like, I don't know how much money she has, but now she's wealthy and quit her job. It's like you gave her a platform to be dumb, and now she's cashing in on it. I got nothing against that. Good for her. I wish I said it. I'd be cashing in too. But at the same time, it's just like it's engagement farming. That's all it really is.
Yeah, no, that's true, and it's just the misinformation. We've seen these issues before. 2016, a lot of misinformation. It's just constant on social media. But I just thought what I saw there was like even when people were given, and again, they're not going to believe it until they'll believe what they want to believe. But I just thought there was some real nastiness behind it, and to discredit somebody and their accomplishments based on a lie. I guess it doesn't matter to this. She's still a gold medalist, and she'll sue these. It just was shocking. Some of it was shocking.
If you look back at other time periods, right? Like, let's say Twitter existed for 9/11, right? Think of all the misinformation and crazy shit that would have gone out there that we would have had to freak out about because people just can't handle themselves. You know what I mean? It's like there's a whole thing about the Clintons owning like a pizza shop that was used for human trafficking.
Pizzagate, yeah.
What happened? You know what I mean? So I can only imagine where life would have gone if we had social media during some of the biggest events in the world, and that we have for some of them too. But it's a dangerous place for misinformation and for just crazy theories and hate and all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, we have the ability to have a conversation right now with somebody across the world. I can have a conversation with someone in India right now and have a crystal clear video. But instead, we're just going to shit talk each other on Twitter. You know what I mean? It's like we have this amazing opportunity and we throw it away.
Yeah, and now you really can see people's beliefs like up in your face pretty closely now. You're right. 9/11 would have been a interesting time for that. COVID was obviously a terrifying time for that.
Crazy misinformation. Yeah. So, even the 2016 election, they found a way to really
the 2020, yeah.
2020, 2016, both of them. Like they found ways to really make that a shit show, and they did. And there was ways to skillfully advertise it too, which they try to ban now. But that was even scarier, that you can advertise misinformation so that you forcibly reach millions of people.
It's absolutely crazy, and I think you've gone frozen, Mike.
Oh boy.
So, but yeah. Anyways, Mike, I really appreciate you filling in for Scott. Hopefully, Scott returns to the show soon, but we definitely wanted to get in episode 18 of Ring and Free Thoughts. So I really appreciate you. We'll hopefully have Let Freedom Ring episodes coming back to the studio this fall, tentatively. But yeah, Mike, anything else you want to say?
Well, listen, I appreciate you having me on. I had a great time talking with you. Would love to find out where Scott McVicker is. Scott actually, and people forget this, but Scott actually helped me secure my first loan to buy my first car.
Really?
So me and Scott go way back, way back, and I hope we find him. Could be anywhere at this point, but I do appreciate the conversation. I think we captured a lot of really important topics here. So I'd love to join again sometime and just chit chat with you. I think this is a good platform to talk about the happenings of the world.
Absolutely. Well, all right. Well, for myself, Mike Beaulieu, Scott McVicker, wherever you may be, everybody have a great week. We'll be back hopefully next Friday with Scott, but continue to let freedom ring and ring in the free thoughts.